What are the future changes to Social Security, and what are the major changes that are coming? That is the subject of this video. Welcome to another episode of the Financial Fast Lane. My name is Lane Martinson. And so Social Security has undergone many changes over the years, but there's a very big change that is coming, and it is a 25% reduction in benefits across the board for all recipients. Now, if we look at the Social Security Trustees Report, it says Social Security and Medicare both face long-term financing shortfalls under the current scheduled benefits and financing. Both programs will experience cost growth substantially in excess of GDP growth during and through the mid-2030s due to rapid population aging. And so we are retiring at about 10,000 Americans per day, and we will continue at that rate for about the next 10 years. And so we have this shrinking workforce and an aging population that's really unprecedented, and we haven't experienced this anomaly the way we are. But since the mid-1980s, Social Security has been well funded, and so the tax revenue coming in from the payroll tax coming into the Treasury, and it was sufficient to pay all benefits plus a surplus. And that surplus, since the mid-1980s, has been going into the Social Security trust funds. And the balance reached there is about $2.9 trillion in the trust funds. And until 2020, that changed. And so for the first time, the payroll tax coming into the system was not sufficient to meet all of the payments for Social Security. And so they have now started to tap into those trust funds. And so now what they're saying is that with no reforms, if everything stays the way it is expected that those trust funds will be depleted by the year 2034. And at that point, if there were no changes to the law, then the tax revenue that's coming in from payroll would be sufficient to pay about 75% of the scheduled benefits. So Social Security would not go away like some people may have suggested. It would not go bankrupt. It just means that there wouldn't be enough, and everyone would get less. So that's assuming that nothing changes. I think there's going to be changes. If we go back to 1935, just to help us understand this a little bit better, President Franklin D. Roosevelt is who signed the Social Security law and became a thing, right, in 1935. But if we go back to that time, if we go look at 1937, for every one American that was receiving Social Security benefits back then, there was 42 tax-paying workers paying into the system, a ratio of 42 to 1. Very, very strong, right? Now, if we fast forward to 2022, there's only 2.8 tax-paying workers for every one person that's receiving Social Security benefits now. And so it has just been a drastic change, from our demographics. In 1937, the earliest age that you could claim Social Security back then was 65. It wasn't the option to claim at 62 didn't come until years later. So you couldn't start Social Security until 65, and life expectancy back in 1937 was only 62. And so it was never really intended that the majority of people would ever live long enough to claim Social Security. That was the original design, the original intent. It's kind of a safety net for those, for the segment of the population that actually had some longevity. But now today, in 2022, we can claim Social Security benefits at age 62. And when you're in your 60s, the national average life expectancy is right around age 85. And so Social Security has changed a lot. The way people think of it has also changed a lot. People have been paying taxes into it throughout their working years, and the American people have come to expect it and to depend upon it. And so it becomes a pension, essentially, a retirement pension, right? Now, so let's look at how Social Security has grown. Going back again to 1937, in that year, there were 52,236 Americans that were receiving their Social Security benefits. Total paid out 1.2 million in that year. Fast forward to 1950, it had increased to 3.4 million Americans receiving Social Security benefits. Total payout, 961 million. Fast forward to 1980, 39 million Americans receiving Social Security. Total payout, $247 billion. Fast forward to the year 2000, 45 million Americans receiving benefits, $407 billion total payout in that year. Now, in 2022, 66 million Americans receiving Social Security benefits, total payout $1.3 trillion. And so you can see the program has grown substantially. And Social Security is something that people are asking themselves, will Social Security be there for me? Can I depend on Social Security? And so what I would say is that, there's no political party that wants to get rid of it. It would be extremely unpopular politically. And the different political parties may argue on how to solve the problem, but no one really wants to get rid of it. Now, if we're talking younger generations, that may be a different story. But for people who have been paying into Social Security for a long time and they're nearing retirement or in retirement, I think you can depend on Social Security. I think we have major issues that need to be resolved. But I don't think the American people are going to accept a 25% reduction. I just don't think that's going to happen. But what I do think is that taxes are going to be higher. And so that's really where the risk is. The likelihood that taxes will be higher, I think, is very significant. To solve the Social Security problem, it's actually not something that's unsolvable. Some changes where they push out full retirement age, increasing taxes on the amount that's taxed right now. Payroll taxes are taxed up to $147,000. If that increases, that will make a change. So there's a few changes that could be made that would really stabilize Social Security. And I think that that's likely to happen just because the American people, they fully embrace Social Security and they want it and they depend upon it, right? So there has to be some changes, there has to be some reforms. But while Social Security is, could be fixed and could be made solvent, we have other problems that are bigger, like Medicare is going to have way bigger problems. That's a much more difficult problem to solve than Social Security. The debt and the deficit spending that we're doing as a country, it's unsustainable. So there's going to be some big changes. I don't know what those changes are exactly. I can't see the future. But I think everything indicates that taxes are likely to be higher. And so it really emphasizes the importance of good tax planning, especially if you have IRAs and 401ks or other pensions or earned income in retirement. How you position yourself and your assets from a tax standpoint is huge going forward. So now I have another video here where I go into I give 5 reasons why you may want to claim your Social Security benefits early, and I give 5 reasons why you may not want to do that. So I encourage you to watch that video, and I look forward to seeing you soon.